8 News at 6 starts now.
A nation in shock. Nearly 60 dead and more than 500 injured in the worst mass shooting in our history.
It was a cowardly, despicable act.
Pure evil.
A heartbreaking plea for answers to this senseless tragedy.
He bought the machine guns and he did this.
Can anyone feel safe in a public place again? Good evening. The world in shock tonight after that mass shooting in Las Vegas. A gunman opening fire at the Mandalay Bay Resort across the street from that music festival.
At least 58 people are dead tonight, hundreds more injured. The attack is the worst mass shooting in United States history. Country music star Jason Aldean on stage when the shooting began. Police say the gunman, who you see here, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, killed himself in a room at the Mandalay Bay Hotel.
Like some were falling and some were screaming and yelling.
People just started dropping around us. A lot of dead bodies. A lot of people were just piling on top of whoever, even if they're bleeding or not.
Law enforcement says the shooter had no ties to international terror. The motive is still under investigation.
Several people from Richmond witnessed the chaos of that massacre. Our 8 News reporter Kristen Smith is here now with that story. Kristen?
Chris Staples is a Richmond man who was in Vegas for business, but his trip didn't turn out as expected. Staples says last night he saw people running for their lives after gunfire erupted at the concert. Chris Staples was in a casino when he spotted a crowd running his way.
The reaction is something terrible is happening. You can tell the people, people were running for their lives. That's what was happening.
Not knowing what was going on outside of his hotel, the Richmond man ran and hid behind a bar in the casino.
It happened so quick, and I definitely expected to see, in my mind, somebody walking through the casino floor with like a gun.
After a brief lockdown, security gave the all clear. By then, the crowd outside of Mandalay Bay had cleared, and so had the lively Las Vegas Strip.
When we went up to our hotel room, I've never seen anything like it before. The streets were empty, and the only thing you could hear was police sirens.
That eerie sight soon overcome by thoughts of all the people he had met that day who were going to the concert.
Good people out there to have fun. And, I hate to think that any of those people that we ran into, anything horrible has happened to them, but clearly a lot of bad stuff has happened.
For Staples, it was a somber wake-up call that changed him forever.
It's weird. Perspective hits you, and you feel all of a sudden you realize how fortunate you are to have your health and your life, and how quickly it can be taken away at a moment's notice.
Right now, Chris Staples is on a flight to Richmond. He says he'll be relieved to get back home. Juan and Christina.
Area hospitals here are using that tragedy to train their staff on how to respond if something like that happened here.
Our 8 News reporter Parker Slabaugh spoke with supervisors at VCU Medical Center. He's live tonight at the hospital. Parker?
Yeah, Juana, Christina, hospital administrators here at VCU Medical Center behind me here in downtown Richmond say they look at the after actions report for any sort of mass casualty situation that happens anywhere in the country. They say they do that to better prepare in case something like what happened in Las Vegas happened right here at home.
And we exercise at least 2 to 3 times a year just to make sure those plans work, and then go back and fix those things that just didn't work very well.
Practice makes perfect, the saying goes, and that is exactly what the staff here at VCU Medical Center tries to do. So if, heaven forbid, a mass casualty event like what happened in Las Vegas ever happened here, the staff would be ready.
VCU Health has a very robust emergency management or emergency preparedness program, and we continuously are updating plans and planning not only here at the health system but also with the other facilities within the central region.
If VCU Medical Center was ever put on alert to expect a large influx of casualties, they have a program that would be put into place right away.
Well, I think what we would first do is we would start our incident command structure, which would initiate our different roles and start to plan and prepare, especially at first for the emergency department, because that's where that huge influx is going to come into.
They will also take the notes from the Las Vegas medical community and use them to improve their plan.
We look at all the after-action reviews from any kind of hazard or disaster, whether it be a weather-related or such as this with an active shooter. We go back and we look through those plans, and then we look at their after-actions and see where they learned, and then see if we can apply them back to our plans.
VCU Medical Center is a level 1 trauma center, so you can bet if anything like that were to happen here, they, of course, would be vital to the response. Live in downtown Richmond tonight, Parker Slabaugh, 8 News.
Today, President Trump ordered flags around the country to be flown at half-staff in memory of the victims. You're looking at the flag there at the White House over the nation's capital. President Trump has called the Las Vegas shooting, quote, an act of pure evil.
There is no motive yet for the shooting in Las Vegas that left at least 58 people dead. The suspect was not on law enforcement radar, had no record. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has more.
This is the man police say opened fire on more than 20,000 people at a country music concert on the Las Vegas Strip.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay.
Around 10:08 local time last night, police say 64-year-old Stephen Paddock used a tool to break holes in the windows of his hotel room on the 32nd floor. From there, police say Paddock then sprayed his targets with bullets. People frantically running, trying to take cover.
We're going to get trampled if we don't go.
Police say they found an arsenal in Paddock's room, a combination of about 20 rifles and handguns locked and loaded.
This is an individual who was described as a lone wolf. I don't know how it could have been prevented.
No connection with an international terrorist group.
Eric Paddock says his brother showed no signs of distress or mental illness and had no religious or political affiliation.
If he'd have killed my kids, I couldn't be more dumbfounded.
Paddock described as an avid gambler who had a girlfriend, 62-year-old Mary Lou Danley. Her ID sitting in his hotel room. Authorities tracked her down outside of the country but say she is not considered an accomplice. Authorities say Paddock killed himself in the hotel room. Among those killed was an off-duty police officer at the concert. Today, people waiting for hours to donate blood to help the hundreds of victims who are now fighting for their lives. Here in Washington, President Trump offered somber words expressing unity, quoting Bible scriptures just 48 hours after what many felt were some of the most divisive days of his entire presidency. His staff says he plans to visit Las Vegas this Wednesday after a stop in Puerto Rico. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, Washington.
You saw an official there mention lone wolf. Tonight, a VCU expert is weighing in on what we know about lone shooters and what can be done to stop them.
All right, news reporter Mark Tenya is following that story for us. Mark?
Christina Juan, we spoke with the Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness expert who says that while lone shooters all have something in common, there are some things that make the shooter in Las Vegas unique. It's been a little more than 10 years since the Virginia Tech shooting, but since then there have been a number of mass shootings across the U.S., including the now deadliest mass shooting in history.
There's a typology of mass shooters, and they tend to commit mass shootings for one of a few reasons.
Dr. William Pelfrey with VCU's Wilder School has researched and written extensively about Homeland Security and emergency preparedness. He says perpetrators do have a pattern.
A revenge killing, a love killing, a terrorist killing. Frequently they have a history of mental illness. Usually they feel like they have been victimized by society in some capacity, and they're acting out against not necessarily the people that victimized them specifically, but people in general as a way to gain retribution.
But in the case of Stephen Paddock, Pelfrey says he is unique.
This shooter is a good bit older than most of the mass shooters.
And doesn't appear to have any special connection to where the shooting took place.
He's been thinking about this for a long time. You don't show up in Las Vegas with this amount of armament and decide on a whim this is going to happen.
Pelfrey says while there have been modest steps to improve mental health and safety precautions,
there's been very little momentum for gun control or restriction of guns even after substantial events,
which he says law enforcement believe will make it harder for these events to occur.
Police chiefs, sheriffs, investigators, they are overwhelmingly for greater control of access to firearms. It's clear that this perpetrator was very heavily armed and had either automatic weapons or substantial amounts of ammunition that made it easy for him to fire hundreds, perhaps even thousands of rounds into a crowd.
And Pelfrey also talked about the long-term effects of the shooting. He says it will impact people who were there for days, months, and for some, even years. Juan?
Mark Senator Tim Kaine speaking out today on Twitter. He writes that he's heartbroken by the tragedy in Las Vegas, praying for all victims and loved ones. He also tweeted, "So thankful for the bravery and actions of our first responders in Las Vegas." You can help the victims and their families. There's an official GoFundMe page created by Las Vegas officials. So far, that page has raised more than $1 million with a goal of $2 million. If you'd like to donate, you'll find a link on our website, WRIC.com.
Once again, here's what we know so far about the Las Vegas tragedy. We have new numbers just in.
Bad numbers, unfortunate numbers. At least 59 people now dead, 527 injured by that gunman who opened fire last night at a country music festival. His name, Stephen Paddock. Authorities say he's 64 years old and had no criminal history and no ties to international terrorism.
President Trump will visit Las Vegas on Wednesday. He spoke today, calling the shooting a pure act of evil.
And tune in tonight for World News at 6:30. David Muir will lead ABC's coverage from the ground in Las Vegas. That special edition of ABC's World News tonight is an hour and begins immediately after our 6 o'clock show. So stay with 8 News for the very latest on this developing story. We'll have continuing coverage for you here on air and online at WRIC.com.
Still ahead tonight, a serial TV robber on the loose in Chesterfield County. He's caught on camera. We'll have details after the break. Raquel?
And although the West is seeing some snow in the mountains, here at home, we're just talking about a different S word, sunshine. We're still looking nice and sunny, and the sunshine will continue on, but there is some rain in the forecast. I'll have a look at that forecast in just a few minutes.
You're watching 8 News at 6 on this Monday. We cover the news where you live.
Stay with us. Juan, Raquel, and I are back in just a moment. News where you live in Hopewell. A child is dead after being hit by a car. It happened in the Twin Rivers apartment complex yesterday afternoon. Police say a driver hit 6-year-old Jamari Howard. Authorities say he just walked into the road and could not be seen. That driver stayed there, cooperated with police. No charges have been filed. Also in Henrico, a second man is facing charges for the murder of a 16-year-old. Police say James McLaughlin shot from his car and hit Jamal Scott in April. The teenager was rushed to the hospital where he died. McLaughlin is charged with first-degree murder and firearms charges. Roger Brown was also arrested in August and charged with second-degree murder.
A crime alert now in Chesterfield County, where police are looking for a man who they say stole flat-screen TVs several times. We're told the man you see here went into the Target in Chester, loaded his shopping cart with a flat-screen TV, and just walked out of the store. Investigators say he did this 4 times between August 11th and September 14th. If you recognize this man, call Crime Solvers. And to see all the latest crime where you live, check out our Spot Crime map at WRIC.com. It features icons for everything from thefts to shooting. You'll find Spot Crime under the News tab.
After the break, continued coverage of the mass shooting in Las Vegas, reaction from across the country. We'll hear from President Trump still ahead. Raquel?
And it was gorgeous outside. Temperatures around 74 degrees across the region. Plus, you pair that up with the sunshine. It was a great fall day. However, it is going to feel more like summer later on this week. I'll tell you when our next cool down is in your 7-day forecast.
Here's the latest now on the mass shooting in Las Vegas. New numbers. At least 59 people have been killed. More than 527 have been hurt.
This is the deadliest shooting in modern U.S. history.
Police say the gunman, 64-year-old Stephen Paddock, opened fire on more than 20,000 people who were going to a country music concert. Investigators say he broke holes in the window of his hotel room here to shoot from and eventually shot himself. Police still looking for a motive. They say Paddock has no connection to international terrorism.
Tonight, President Trump is calling the Las Vegas attack an act of pure evil. The president is offering his prayer, support, and federal resources to the victims of the massacre.
Hundreds of our fellow citizens are now mourning the sudden loss of a loved one, a parent, a child, a brother or sister. We cannot fathom their pain. We cannot imagine their loss.
The president also praised Las Vegas police for their fast and heroic response. He is traveling to Las Vegas on Wednesday.
Let's turn now to the weather where you live and a live look across the capital city on this sunny Monday.
Looks nice out there. Let's go straight to meteorologist Raquel Nakora for our forecast.
You know, at least it's still fall. It feels like it for today. Later on this week, it's going to feel like summer, but you can see right behind me west of the country, we are seeing snow up in the mountains, the Rockies there. This was taken at the Breckenridge Resort in Colorado, where they are getting some good snow, and I'm sure a lot of skiers and snowboarders are excited about that. For us, maybe we're more excited about that sunshine. I know I get a lot of comments about the snow, and they're not always the most positive ones. Towards the Pacific Northwest, though, you can see that snow stretching from Colorado all the way up to Montana, and they're actually under winter storm watch in the areas that are dark blue here. Areas they could see up to isolated amounts of a foot or even a little bit more than that. But it's good timing, though. The drought conditions there have been exceptionally dry. You can see in the deep red. Here at home, it's been a while since we've seen significant rainfall. The last time we saw rainfall over ½ an inch was actually September 1st, and that was with the remnants of Harvey. So it's been a while. The grass is a little crunchy, so just make sure you keep those plants watered, because over the next several days, it's still looking dry. We have an area of high pressure to our northeast that's just causing a ridge of high pressure through the mid-Atlantic, and also resulted in a surface high pressure to our south. So that means we're in for a dry week. We are still going to see that sunshine, but once the system moves offshore, then we'll start to tap into some of that warm and drier air towards the south and southwest. In the meantime, it still feels very mild outside. Currently at 71 degrees for Richmond, 72 degrees for Ashland, the relative humidity at 51%. But overnight into tomorrow morning, well, we'll work with a little bit of moisture, and we're going to drop down to a low 50 degrees. It is going to be chilly, but we could see some spots in the upper 40s, and those tend to be a little bit drier. So 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, starting off at 58 degrees, we'll make our way up to 67 by 10. Around noon, we'll start to see some temperatures, low 70s, warming up to 73 degrees by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then reaching our high of 76 by 4 o'clock once again. So a couple degrees warmer compared to today, and then the warm trend continues on into Wednesday. So Wednesday at noon, the high pressure system that's causing that ridge will begin to move offshore. You'll notice, though, towards the northwest, we have an incoming cold front, but it's really not going to impact us significantly. It may just lead to a few clouds for Friday and Saturday. But as far as that rainfall, well, we're looking towards Sunday and Monday of next week, with some of that moisture coming in from the Gulf of Mexico to result in some of that much needed rainfall. So this week still looking dry, actually pretty warm for Thursday and Friday with highs in the low to mid 80s. But by next week, that's when you're going to need that umbrella. So enjoy this week. Again, it is seasonably warm, but who knows, maybe give it a week or two, it'll start to feel more like winter.
Coming up in sports, an exclusive sit-down interview with Richmond head basketball coach Chris Mooney. What does the head Spider think of the mess in golf and college basketball right now? His answer when we return. 8 Sports is next.
8 Sports is sponsored by the Haley Automotive Group.
Welcome back. This is the Haley 8 Sports Report. Once again, the Redskins take center stage in prime time tonight. The biggest difference between this week's game and last week's games, the Skins are on the road tonight. And Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City is one of the toughest places to play in the league, whether it's a 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon or tonight, Monday night. And there's this wrinkle with the Falcons' loss to the Bills yesterday. The Chiefs are the NFL's only remaining undefeated team, and that is in large part because of a very fast, dynamic offense.
We got to make sure we're keeping our leverages and not giving up the big play. You know, these guys have scored a touchdown of 50-plus yards in 9 games in a row. They're a big play team.
Well, we just got to put a couple games back to back. You know, I think, you know, we played good the other night, but I'm just saying we could get better. And I think overall we're pulling together as a defense. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're getting better.
My name is Messiah Scott. I'm a quarterback at Petersburg High School, and you're watching 8 Sports Blitz.
All right, it is Monday, and that means we need to update the latest 8 Sports Blitz top 10 poll, so let's dig in. Hopewell remains number 10 after smashing Matoaka. That is a 5A team losing to a 3A team, so that's good on Hopewell. Varina still number 9 after doing the same thing to Armstrong. Lee Davis destroyed Hanover at Hanover and remains at number 8. LC Bird was off last week, so they don't move from number 7. The only team to beat them this season is Thomas Dale, so that's a change. They're ahead of Bird at number 6, dropping from 4 to 6 after getting shut out at Dinwiddie. Manchester is up 1 spot to number 5, with Dale dropping that 2 spots. Monacan, the new number 4, they are still undefeated, hosting James River this week. At number 3, it's Highland Springs after a hard-fought win over rival Henrico. Dinwiddie remains number 2 after their shutout win over Dale, 28-0. That was impressive. And because number 1 Hermitage had no trouble with Deep Run, the King stay the king. If you'd like to see the rhyme and reason behind why we ranked these teams where we did, just go to WRIC.com later tonight when we post it. Find the 8 Sports Blitz page. We explain ourselves there. If you're a college basketball fan, your long wait for a new season is nearly over. At the University of Richmond, Chris Mooney is beginning his 13th season running the program. He sat down with 8 Sports weekend anchor Chip Briere earlier today, and Chip asked him about the FBI investigation that ousted Louisville's Rick Pitino and threatens to rock the entire sport.
For this to come out and it feels so blatant or it feels so big, I think it's a little bit sad, and you know it makes everybody you know do a double check. And as we learn about what goes on, about how to make sure that you're doing the right thing by your university first and by your student athletes next.
And that'll do it for the Haley 8 Sports Report. I'm Mitch Carr. We're back with more 8 News and weather after this break.
And here's a final check on that 7-day forecast for tomorrow, starting off on Tuesday, warming up to a high of 76 degrees, which is the typical October weather you're looking for. Wednesday and Thursday begins our warm trend. That area of high pressure that I've been talking about through the show, well, that's going to begin to move offshore, and this is going to allow more of that warm air from the deep south start to creep in. Not an immediate warm up. We're not going to jump into the upper 80s, low 90s, but we'll warm up to a high of 85 degrees for Thursday. Friday and Saturday, that cold front I mentioned, it's not going to make its way completely through. That's why we'll still see temperatures in this low to mid 80s, but it will result in a few clouds Sunday and Monday. Next week, we'll start to see some of that much needed rainfall return. But this week is actually looking pretty pleasant, and at least we'll get that rainfall next week.
Very dry this week. All right. Thanks, Raquel, and thanks for joining us for 8 News at 6.
We're back tonight at 11 after our primetime lineup. We look forward to seeing you then. Good night.